Okay, I'm going to attempt this repair today. It's a 2015 Duramax. I have the P21DD fault and also a I think it's a P20B9, I believe. Pretty much basic tools. I might need some different pliers or something, but I think for the most part I'll be able to get everything that I need to. Down here it'll be hard to see some of it, but most of it's all pretty easy to get to, just time consuming. And I'm going to do this in parts, video in parts, and then hope that I can kind of splice it all back together. But we'll see. What we gotta do is take this cover off. You see there's a bolt there on the front, and of course there's another one back here on the back. Probably can't see it. That's a T40 star-shaped socket, and then you got 3 bolts that we have to remove, and those appear to be 1/2 inch. And then you kind of possibly want what's called a spring clamp pliers, because you're going to have to take that clamp off right there. And those pliers, you can see it's a tight fit. I think even when I get the cover off, it's still going to be pretty tight. Okay, I took the 2 T40 bolts out. There's 2 of them, and what I just kind of discovered is I don't know if mine's a little different, but the tank actually started to come down when I took those 2 out. So I went ahead and I put my floor jack on there to make sure it had some support, because I still got to take out these 3 other bolts, one in the middle and one more down there. So we'll see what happens when I take that out. Alright, I got the 4 bolts out, and I also had to take this hose off, and I had to remove this electrical connection here. Not too hard, just had to press down on it. Luckily you can kind of reach behind the tank over on this side. Yeah, probably can't really see that very well. And then this hose is just 2 push buttons, one on each side, and you just clip it. And it actually came off pretty easy. I guess the perk of owning a little newer truck. Now I gotta try to get the hose off the front, because I'm still not sure if that whole tank is gonna come down or not. If it does, I don't want those connections on there, and I think there's still one more big connector on there, so I'll try to get a hold of that one. So now I'm going to try to take that hose off the front here with this tool here, and we'll see what happens next. Okay, so with a little bit of work and some long needle nose pliers and a basically a pipe wrench, I was able to loosen that up and move it kind of out of the way. Putting it back on, it might be easier to use that flexible clamp hose that I bought. I still think there's one more electrical connection, but I'm not sure. I'm gonna kind of gently lower this and see if the whole tank comes down or if it's just the cover. Okay, so I was able to get these brackets out. What happened, it loosens the tank up, so I still kind of kept the jack underneath there until I leave it underneath there because it's obviously loose. But you got this strap, and kind of what you gotta do is actually lift that tank up a little bit, push the strap up and against the tank, and then no, up and away from the tank, because you got to push it up high enough to get it around that key and then wiggle it out. So the first one, which is this one, I'll mix them up here. I don't think there is. Yeah, they're the same size. Okay, so the first one is a little tricky to figure out how to get it out, but once I figured it out, the front one came out, piece of cake. So now I know there's one more electrical connection, but I can't see it from underneath. So I'm going to carefully and slowly lower the jack. Oh, I got my finger in the way. I'm going to carefully and slowly lower the jack and see if from this back side of the tank, if I can see that electrical connection. Okay, so I gently lowered the tank down, and it's a good thing because these wires back up here kind of got caught behind that little lip there. So go slow when you're taking it out, even if the tank's empty. And unfortunately my tank is mostly full, which doesn't really help me. I did disconnect that hose here. It came from here. Now what I've got is this big blue connector back there, and I'm trying to figure out exactly how it disconnects, so I may have to look in there with the mirror. I hopped over to some other videos I had seen, and nobody really talked about that plug, so I got to figure out what type it is, how it unplugs. Okay, so I got it off, and while it's fresh in my mind, I'm going to try to show. So it just pulls out. I can't really see the connector piece up there. There it is. It just slides onto that, slides off. So I was able to pull it out, and then I'm not making anybody sick. So then what you got to do is this little tab here. There's one on each side. So you got to push that tab out, and this blue handle here. So you push that tab down. You got to get two hands in there to do it. So you push that tab out and you flip this handle up. You got to do it on both sides. Flip that whole handle up, and then that plug, that connector just comes right on out. So I believe everything's out. All the connections are disconnected, so I should be able to carefully pull this tank out, because like I said, I got these wires here are really close. So hopefully the next shot I'll have the thing out and we can start replacing the heater. Okay, well, I got it on the ground, and once again, kind of take your time, because I didn't realize this other hose here, which I had disconnected, I believe it's disconnected. Yeah, it's loose, but it kind of worried me when I got it down and I saw it was still hanging up there connected to something, and it connects here towards the front of the tank. So I was a little worried I might have done something bad or wrong, but luckily I did have it disconnected. So make sure you disconnect that before you drop that tank. Alright, so I got a little bit ahead of myself. I'm trying to keep up with the video here, but basically I took all the connectors off, so you get down to just the bare tank. Mine has apparently an additional like insulating cover, so I had to carefully take that off. This here, you just slide it. It's this little Bosch. It's just a slide. It's got a stop on one end, so you just slide it off. And it had connections on both ends. But now I want to clean the top of this. I don't want any dirt or dust or getting down in there. I'm not entirely sure I'm going to reuse the fluid that's in here. There was the possibility that maybe it was frozen, but I don't think so. Since my heater died, this is Iowa, it's been really cold. But it doesn't sound frozen, but I had put some in there. So I'm going to clean this up, and then take this pump off the top here and go from there. Okay, got the pump off, just held on by 3 little bolts. My driver here says this is a CRV4. That was the size I needed to take that out. And then the next step, apologize for not having a stand to put this on, but I had to use a screwdriver and some light taps to loosen this up. So then I'll finish taking that off. I wanted to clean it up a little bit more, wiped it down a little bit better so no dust gets in there. And I'll take that out here in just a second. Okay, I was able to get the old one out. It's not too bad. You just pull up on the top to loosen it out of the seal, and then you pull the rubber seal out and just pull it out over the top. And then basically this is what you can see inside there. What I did, you twist it counterclockwise to pull it out. So since I'm obviously not reusing this old pump or this old heater, I just put my thumb on that and just gave it a little twist. You can kind of see where it locks down in there. It's got a little filter down in the bottom, and it just locks right down in there. Like I said, I didn't want to risk any contamination, so I just dumped this fluid out. It's just water and urea. If you don't know what urea is, well, go look it up. It's well, yeah, and I put different gloves on too when I took that out. Instead of these gloves, I put on some heavy-duty rubber gloves, because that urea will really dry your hands out and cause some irritation. So now I did measure this pump, or I'm sorry, this heater, and a good one, if you measure across here, should measure 2 to 4 ohms. This one measured over 1,000. Well, 1,000 ohms isn't going to be any good trying to heat. The new one that I have sitting here, it measures 2.6 ohms, so that's perfect. And it's going to go back in, and then this is actually a GM part I ordered off of Amazon from a GM dealer. It's got a new seal and new zip ties, a couple little new pieces to go on top, like this piece here, and I guess just that one. Oh, maybe some replacements for those. Nope, there's just one in there, I guess, right in there. So anyway, I'm going to put this new one in, and also, just as kind of a side note for dumping the fluid out too, I probably could have reused it, but I figure why gamble. But also, I think this one's a 5-gallon tank, I believe, so it gets a little heavy, and my truck isn't lifted, and I don't have a lift, so I had to, once I got it loose enough, I had to take the rest of it out by hand. Well, it's kind of heavy, so by taking all the fluid out and then putting this back in, make it much easier job. So I'm going to reassemble this part way. I'm going to put the new heater in there and get it locked into place, and I'll pick up here in a few minutes. Okay, I put the new heater back in there, and I just wanted to point out real quick, just in case somebody's like, oh, how'd you know which way to put it back in? There's keys. There's 2 there real close together. There's one, there's another one. So it'll only go into those keys. You can't put it in wrong. But then once you put it in there, you want to twist it till you hear it kind of pop, and then that way you'll know that it's locked into place. So, you know, just gently. It doesn't take a whole lot of energy or power there to turn it and lock it. So then you just lock it in place, and you'll know, because you won't be able to pull it back up. So it'll be locked in. So now I'm going to work on putting the new seal in and getting the top down on it. And I didn't see anybody talk about this either, but when you put this new seal in, I'll try to move this enough so you can see. You want this seal, it goes on top, but then the cup of the heater in here, you want that seal to actually go behind, towards the outside of that, so you can see the lip. Let me try to get it better. You can see the lip. You want that seal to go behind that all the way around. So you got to kind of push that in and push the seal down from the top. So you just do a little bit around each edge until you get it completely pushed down in there. Okay, I'm back. being by myself, kind of hard to record some of this, but the tank is back in. That took a little bit of work. Thankfully, like I said, it was empty. I dumped it all out. I got the hose. Hopefully, can we see the hose? I got the hose back on. I did end up opening up the clamp. Let me tell you, it made life 10 times easier. And just a little note for some people, when you're underneath here and you go to put that back on, right up here between the, was that the tire well cover and the part of the frame there, that's the hose right here. So while you're over here, what I had to do was use these big adjustable wrench. Anyway, so I had to use the clamp pliers to move the clamp out of the way, and then I got that on partially. Let me tell you, it's a tight fit, so if you got big hands, it might not work. So I was able to get it on the little nipple sticking out, and then from this side over here with my hand I could push, and over here with these pipe wrench on the other end, these are my bigger ones, I was able to twist that rubber hose enough to get it on, and then once it was on, then I just positioned the clamp where I wanted it with this tool here and just let it go. So I got the straps back in place. They're back on the keyed side. So now all I got to do is put this other cover on. I kind of knocked some of the dirt off of it. And then once I get that on, then I put this cover also back on there, and then I try to line up those T40 bolts back up inside there. And that's pretty much it. And then I'll fill it back up with fluid and pray that it works.